Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Following 3 outstanding inductions this year, it is now my great pleasure to announce that the 4th inductee into the SSNA Ovens and Murray Football Netball League Hall of Fame is Matty Fowler from Albury.
Matt Fowler's journey to Albury's games record holder and one of the most dominant forwards of his era began in 1993. Fowler was the recipient of a late call-up to play seniors against Myrtleford on permit after playing for his original club Walbundry the previous day. So began a long career with the Tigers that included 2 of its most successful eras. 2 years after making his debut, Fowler was one of the young guns of the Tigers' first leg of a premiership hat-trick that began with a narrow win over Wodonga on a day the heavens opened and Albury snuck home by 4 points after trailing at the last change. 12 months later, Albury triumphed again, with Fowler among the Tigers' best, with a hat-trick completed a year later against Wodonga Raiders. Resisting offers to move interstate, Fowler became a permanent fixture in the Ovens and Murray Interleague team, riding the wave of unprecedented success in the Victorian Country Championships with 16 appearances for the league. Fowler was a member of some of the league's most famous wins on the interleague stage, including the unforgettable overtime victory against Geelong at Birralee Park in 1998. Further representative honours came with selection for Victoria and New South Wales at the National Country Championships. The most goals he kicked in a match for Albury was 11, and his career tally of 812 goals puts him 3rd on the all-time list, behind 2 other Hall of Famers, Steve Norman and Stan Sargent. Fowler's second run of premiership success came late in his career, with another hat-trick of flags from 2009. His O&M career ended in 2013 with a record 354 matches for Albury. Matt Fowler, an exceptional inductee into the Ovens and Murray Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Matty. I had the pleasure of watching a lot of Matty's football, as I did Dan and even Andrew's netball. But one of the things that stayed with me and will be for a long time is the success that Matthew experienced. So not only did he play in 6 premierships, but outstanding at state level for both New South Wales, Victoria and all Australia. So I'm just interested in the preparation that you had and what it was about the Tigers during that time that sustained success. It was quite extraordinary.
Thanks, Pat. I suppose I was lucky enough to come to a club that was rebuilding at the time, and obviously Paul Spargo took over the reins, and we went on a great journey. I was very lucky that the nucleus of the group stuck together for a long time, and it's been a massive ride.
I spoke to one of your former coaches and also a former club president who explained to me that Matthew at the age of 16 and 17 was just the backbone of the forward line, just an extraordinary player. And I remember watching him, just an outstanding mark and a colossal kick, but you didn't win a best and fairest, mate. What happened? You won everything else.
Yeah, what's the old cliche? They say forwards don't win. BNF, but I was lucky enough to play in the good forward line, and look, I like to think I probably kicked a few goals, but I missed a lot of goals, so that probably hurt me. I was a little bit inconsistent in my early years. Jeremy Masterson, I ran runner up to him in '98. Nearly had him, and we're playing a final over at Raiders, and he got, I think, maximum votes. I got none, so I had a shocker. So he only beat me by a couple of votes, but very deserving winner.
Yes. What we did here is Matt's outstanding contribution as a forward with 812 goals, which places him 3rd on the all-time list behind Stevie Norman of Raiders and also Stan Sargent of North Albury. But his 354 games places him 4th on the all-time games record in the 130-odd year history of the league. So again, Matt, I'm interested in the passion and the drive that kept you playing for that period of time at such a sustained elite level.
I suppose, the Albury Footy Club's an amazing place, always has been, always will be, and I never wanted to leave, so it was just, that's probably, I had a couple of offers to go interstate and go elsewhere, but I just wanted to stay there. So, the body, I probably didn't move too far out of the square, which probably a lot of people will agree to. I was set up forward playing on great Dan Leslie, he was set up back, so we had some great battles, but I moved back to the square, and everyone says that I had a chain on me through the goal post, and I wouldn't move too far away. But I've probably been lucky with a few injuries, a couple along the way. But representing.
So after 6 flags at Albury, why go out to Thaguna, which, by the way, won 3 flags out there as well? What was it that gave you the drive and the passion to keep playing and be successful?
About $70,000. No, good mate. No, I got paid nothing. I agree. Good mate Jason Sheether went out there coaching the year before, and I sort of finished up at Albury, and he sort of got a few of us out there, and we ended up having a great ride. That club had no success for a long time, and obviously had been around the mark for a few years. And then obviously great mate Joel Sullivan, Kane Westlow, Sam Cross, and we went out there and with the tutelage of the great Peter Copley and helped them get their first grand final win and end up playing 3 out there. And look, Albury Footy Club's my home, but it was great memories out of it.
I did hear a smoky that you pulled on the boots in the Upper Murray a couple of years ago under a Shooten. Would that be right, Rob? Did we hear that? 4 years ago.
Played under a fake name, Vinnie Cross, I think it was.
Well done. Now, I know you've got a couple of stories to tell and some notes, so I'll hand over to you and well done.
I've already been warned by my mother and many people here that there's going to be a bell rung or the fire alarm's going to go off if I talk too long. So I'll try and keep it as short as I can, but can't. Oh, she's already got it. Surprise. She actually joked about it, but she's actually done it. So thanks, Mum. Thank you all for being here tonight. It's an honour and a privilege to stand before you as an Upper Murray Hall of Fame inductee, and to say this moment is surreal would be an understatement. I want to start by expressing my deepest gratitude to the Upper Murray Hall of Fame Committee for bestowing me this incredible honour upon me. To be recognised with the greats that have entered the Hall of Fame tonight and past inductees is truly humbling. I am forever grateful and very honoured. To all of my coaches, Barry Edmonds, Paul Spargo, Michael Buchanan, Ben Doolin, Stuart Hodgson, Luke Carroll, Danny Stevens, Daniel Marr and Chris Hyde. And to all of my teammates, thank you so much for helping me have such a long and successful career. You all might be very surprised, but pre-season wasn't my favourite time of the year. I always use the Border Mail print deadline as an excuse as to why I arrived late to training and would miss the running component of the sessions. I'm grateful to have been lucky enough to be involved with such a wonderful and supportive organisation like the Albury Football Club that gave me a place I could call home through some tough times in my life. It was always a place that I could put all things aside, have the support of coaches and teammates, and work hard to try and achieve the ultimate goal of success and winning premierships, which I was lucky enough to do on a few occasions. All of my coaches and teammates have played a massive part in my career, and I am indebted to you all. I must express my gratitude to the Albury Tigers supporters, volunteers and trainers. Your unwavering support, cheers and even the occasional jeer when I missed a goal or dropped a mark was very much appreciated by all at Tigerland, and I'm hoping over the years we gave you some great memories. Talking of trainers, and one of the best in the business and fellow Hall of Famer in Ray Thomas, who was an absolute legend of a man and a great mate who sadly passed away in 2021. It was my first year of senior football at Albury Tigers in '93 at the age of 16. It was a warm August Saturday when we took on Wangaratta at the Albury Sports Ground. I'd had some cramping issues over the previous few weeks, so I ducked over to Tomo's trainer's room to see if he had anything that might stop me cramping. Tomo delved deep into his medicine cabinet and pulled out a dirty old jar of pills and said to take one of these, it'll do the job. All was going well in the first half, and I was having a reasonable game when I was moved down to full forward to be opposed by the tough Magpies backman in Brett Keir. Late in the second quarter, the ball was in the Magpies forward line when I started to get a horrible itching feeling in the nether region, which wouldn't go away. I was opposed to the man they called balls, and here I was having to give myself a good old scratch to try and stem the itch, and I was getting some strange looks by Brett. The itch moved to my underarms, then throat, so Balls must have thought there was a bit of monkey business going on with me. It was also getting hard to breathe, and luckily the siren went to call half time. I remember I had a reaction in a pre-season game, so I rushed over to the boundary line to tell my mum that it was happening again. I ran into the room to check what Tomo had given me, but he wasn't sure. So his solution was for me to strip off to my undies, he covered me in baby powder to stop the itch. Tomo then rushed me across the road to the old base hospital that put on the place. They had to give me an adrenaline shot as my airways were closing up And I'd obviously had a reaction to Tomo's concoction. After medical testing, it turned out that the reaction was to a quinine salt tablet, but let's just say that I was a little hesitant for many years under Tomo's training to delve too deep into his medicine cabinet. On teammates having true Tiger spirit, I recall a game against Lamington in 2004 at the Albury Sports Ground when we're having a great battle and we're right in the game, being a couple of goals down, three-quarter time. We're in our groups at the huddle when my auntie Maureen Wood came running over into the huddle in tears and a panic to tell me that I had to leave the game immediately as my house was on fire at Shoeback Street and that there was a car waiting for me at the front of the club. It was a rainy and cold day in August. I remember looking up towards East Albury from the sports ground to see if there was smoke. I was about to rush off when I was grabbed by a great mate and champion on ball at Jason Sheeper to say, "Hey Fowles, I reckon you should stay here. You've kicked 4, the game's in the balance and we need to win this one." I said, "Mate, my daughter Ali is only 6 weeks old, could be in the house, so I've got to go." He said, "What are you going to be able to do?" Obviously I rushed off and great clubman Terry Duffy was waiting in his car for me. We rushed up to Old East Albury to find the whole street closed off with fire engines, ambulances, police, TV cameras and people everywhere. Flames were billowing out of the roof and the pages of the Border Mail had me in full footy gear, mud everywhere, and our house was burning down in the background. Luckily no one was hurt, the house was rebuilt, but let's just say Jason Sheever showed unbelievable Tiger loyalty that day, trying to get me to play out the game and try and get a win, which we lost, so maybe I should have stayed. Another great story on great teammates is this one is a bloke who was previously a Wodonga Bulldog, who I'd had a bit of history with on the field and off it prior to him becoming a Tiger. Trent Crothers was an up-and-coming, strapping young ruckman for Wodonga, who would always have his jumper tucked into his shorts, which were right up around his neck, and socks pulled up. On this particular day, the Bulldogs had put him at centre up back. I was on the lead, took a mark, when his swinging arm missed the ball and cracked me straight on the nose, which broke and split my nose. There was a fair bit of blood. As I was getting sent off with the blood rule, Trent was apologising for hitting me. It shows the nice guy that he is. I was keen to get back on so I could square the ledger, but sadly I didn't get the chance that game. In the return game at Martin Park, Trent was playing as a loose ruckman in our forward line. A high ball came in, which he had to sit under, very surprisingly. So I thought, here's my chance, and I ran straight through him. I was reported for charging. I was telling the big softy to get up and stop whining. We had to sit in a tribunal the following week. Luckily, the umpire got his evidence muddled up, and it just so happened to be the week of the Ovens Murray rep game. I reckon Ronnie had a bit to do with getting me off. So somehow the charge was pulled. Trent and I had a bit of tension over the next few years, but it happened that he had a fallout with Wodonga. We're in need of a ruckman, so Albury sounded him out. I got a call from Colin Joss to check whether I had any issues with Big Trent coming across the border. I said, no worries at all, as long as we can get in the ring the first night. Trent declined. We become great mates, thick as thieves, on and off the field for a few years. We wore a few costumes at times, Trent and just down the street and whatnot. Trent had a great career at Tigerland. I happened to be his best man and godfather of his and Sarah's son, Spencer. This massive honour of being inducted into the Ovens Murray Hall of Fame would not have been possible without the support and encouragement of countless people. Mum, I'm actually thanking you here. And encouragement of countless people throughout my life. First and foremost, I want to thank my family. To my parents, John and Marg, and my sister Tracy, you've been the most amazing parents and supportive family a child could ever wish for. Dad, I remember waiting for you in the paddock that I'd set up as the MCG of Warbundry, complete with crooked goalposts and manicured onion weed. You'd be absolutely buggered from a day of wool classing or a hard day of farming, but we'd kick the footy until it was pitch black and Mum would be calling us in for dinner. Mum, you were the constant taxi that would always be regularly running around Wagga, Sydney, all over New South Wales representing football. When I was still at high school, taking me to Albury training when I didn't have my licence. There was always some honest feedback on the trips home on whether I played well or things that I could work on. I don't think you've ever missed a game in my whole career. Trace, you've always been my best friend and shoulder to lean on. And as kids on the farm, you always convinced me into playing netball on the homemade court with the promise of kicking the footy afterwards. I must say, if the AFLW was around then, you would have been on the recruiting radar, many a club. On netball sessions on the farm, almost come in handy one day at Yarrawonga when Sparks told me to put on a netball skirt and F off over to the courts as I was having an absolute shocker. I apologise if some of you now have a mental image ingrained in your brain of me in a netball skirt. To my beautiful daughters, Ali and Bella, you loved your footy as kids and getting into your Tigers gear, having a kick of footy with Dad. You're both grown into beautiful young ladies who I'm very proud of, but I have to admit, Bella, you've twisted my allegiances by making me barrack for Lavington, with my old foe Hardy having a strong influence on you heading to Panthers netball. I would like to congratulate all of the other Hall of Fame inductees, and Dan Leslie, Anthony Pasquale, Andrew Chris Sullivan, Richie Castles and John Smith for legend status. Once again, thank you for this tremendous honour. This moment will forever hold a special place in my heart. Thank you all.
Well done, Matthew. So 354 games. He's fourth on the all-time list in the 130-year history of the league. 812 goals, which places him third on the all-time list. 6 premierships, 2 lots of three-peats, 95, 96, 97 and 2009, 10 and 11. A Armstrong medalist in 2011. 16 R&M interleague games. He represented Victoria. He represented New South Wales. He was All-Australian. He's a life member of the R&M. He's a life member of the Albury Tigers. What a fantastic ambassador for our game, Matty Fowler. And his father would say, my boy Matt. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, the 5th inductee into the SSNA Ovens and Murray Football Netball League Hall of Fame for 2023 from Wangaratta Rovers and Manila, Tony Pasquale.
Tony Pasquale timed his entry into the Ovens and Murray with Wangaratta Rovers to perfection. A product of the King Valley who grew up on a tobacco farm, Pasquale never looked back when he asked if he could join the Hawks in the early 1980s. With a thirds best and fairest and exposure at reserves level under his belt, Pasquale graduated into senior ranks where he would star for the next 2 decades. Supremely fit, he gave himself every opportunity to succeed alongside a group of similar-minded players who formed the nucleus of the club's next run of sustained success. A noted big game player, Pasquale was a member of the club's 1988, 1991 and 1994 premiership teams with a foot stress fracture, robbing him of a spot in another flag in 1993. 5 times he finished in the top 3 of the Rovers' best and fairest behind club champion and good mate Rob Walker. Pasquale also relished the challenge of playing for the Ovens and Murray, which he did 12 times and also made 7 appearances for Vic Country. His only time away from Rovers and the O&M was when he accepted the coaching job at Benalla, which had made the move to the Goulburn Valley in 1998. Pasquale had 2 seasons in charge and left an equally big impression in the GV, winning the Morrison Medal and Club Best and Fairest in his first year and representing the league both years he spent at Benalla. But the dream job of coaching Rovers presented itself in 2002 and he coached them into the grand final, only to be overrun in the final quarter by North Albury. Rovers made finals every year Pasquale coached before a broken leg contributed to his eventual retirement in 2005 after 322 matches of the highest quality. Tony Pasquale, a wonderful inductee into the Ovens and Murray Hall of Fame.
Tony, I talked to a few of your former teammates over the last couple of weeks and they talked to me about this particular person who was ahead of his time. His preparation was second to none. He was delving into diet, into sports science. Probably nobody at Rovers, Robbie Walker included, who had the preparation and the focus that you did. So I'm interested if you could tell the audience tonight what it was as a young man that drove you to that level of excellence that you continued throughout your outstanding career.
That's a tough question. I'm not too sure what it was. I think it was just wanting to be as successful as I could be, I suppose. I just looked at everything and tried to make everything count. I picked up a lot of good traits along the way. I'll probably save that for my speech, but I think they counted for a lot. And my teammates as well, like the group that I was involved with, were very like-minded, so that meant I had to keep up.
So after an outstanding career at Rovers, and I'll go over some of the numbers a bit later on, but 3 premierships, obviously 5 times in the top 2 or 3 in the best and fairest, and after coaching Rovers you made the decision to go to Benalla. We, by the way, won the league medal over there and also the club best and fairest, but what was it that kept your passion alive to go and coach Benalla in the Golden Valley?
In '98 I was an assistant coach to John O'Donoghue at Rovers, and I think there was a couple of years there that I was starting to suffer from a few injuries, a few little niggles, and so I was trying to think of what could keep me in the game a bit longer. So you start thinking about coaching, and then the Benalla job came up, and they were at that point in the Golden Valley, so they weren't in the Murray, so I wouldn't have to coach against any of my mates or against the Rovers. So, and it was only half an hour up the road, so the opportunity was there if I wanted it. I went and spoke to them, and they seemed like a good fit, like a good challenge for me in my first go as a coach. So that's why I decided to go there, just to have a go and see what would happen.
Very successful go, by the way. It's interesting what you find out. I went to a 1992 premiership reunion with the Wodonga Bulldogs a few weeks ago, and one of the players travelled up from down south, a fellow by the name of Mick Atkins, whose son's playing at Geelong at the moment, and he said of all of the years that he played footy, he has one horrible memory. In 1992, he claims, Wodonga was on the path for an undefeated season. This particular player, Tony Pasquale, was playing me and kicked a winning score in the last few seconds, and I've just Mick's raised it twice in the last couple of weeks, and I'm just wondering whether that resonates with you or whether you remember the event. Mick certainly does.
I don't know if I can remember that. I don't know if I can claim that one, but Mick was a pretty good player, so I do remember Mick. Obviously, he was a fantastic player. I can't remember that game, to be honest, Graham, but I do remember that Wodonga were a very, very good team. Probably at that point were probably the best team that I've seen in the Murray, probably very close to it.
Yeah, well, certainly Mick remembers it because he rang Andy Whitehead during the week and just reminded him. He said, I think I got passed into the Hall of Fame. But, just an outstanding career. Tony, what I'd like to do is hand the microphone over to you to do your thanks in your presentation, and well done, well deserved.
First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to the Hall of Fame Committee, to the current board of the Wangaratta Rovers Football Club, and to the current board of the Murray Football League for bestowing this honour on me. Congratulations to the other inductees. Quite intimidating standing up here after seeing their stats. And a big congratulations to Johnny Smith, who's going to come after me, I presume, for being bestowed or inducted as a legend. Peter Tossell told me a couple of months ago that this was coming up, so I had a bit of time to prepare. So yesterday I finally put pen to paper. I have put a little bit of a story together. I thought I'd write a bit of a story to make sure I captured everything, so forgive me for the next 5 minutes. But I thought I'd just pen a story called A Most Fortunate Learning Journey. The journey began in 1981 when my PE teacher at Champagne College talked me into converting from playing soccer at that point, I was 15 years of age, to playing Aussie rules. From Mr. Don Hackett, I learned a lot about physical training and conditioning, and started a love affair with PE, so it was probably Don's influence that got me interested in that. After a couple of years in the junior league, in 1903 I chose to go to Wang Rovers, and how fortunate was I to walk into a place that had just come off the 1970s, where I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they played in 9 grand finals in 10 years and won 7 premierships. I was most fortunate to rub shoulders with some of the heroes of that era, namely Andrew Scott, Merv Holmes, Neville Pollard, Lee Hartwig, Mark Booth, Steve Norman, Eddie Flynn, Noel Porter, Barry Cook, and there was probably a few that I've missed out on, but I learned a lot from those guys. In particular, a man who coached in that era, Daryl Smith, was my first coach at Rovers. Daryl taught me how to train and how to respect the game. Those that know Daryl will know what I'm talking about. Thank you, Daryl. My first senior coach was Mr. John Welsh, who I had the great pleasure to hear from him this morning. Johnny gave me a call and said he still recalls the night that he picked me to play my first senior game. It was a pre-season game. Back then we had the pre-season comp and it was under lights at Lavington. And I said to John this morning, the way I remember it is that I felt like I walked into the land of giants. We played against Lavington, and those people that know Ray Mack, Ken Roberts, Warren Stanlake, and a few of Wayne Pendergast will know what I'm talking about. Johnny Welsh picked me for my first game, and he gave me a lot of confidence. From him I learned all about passion and determination, not just for the club, but for the game. From John's brother Jeff, who was coaching the reserves at that time, I learned about how to take success and winning in your stride, and not to interfere when things are going okay. One day Jeff was coaching the seconds, we were playing Murford, it was pouring down rain and hail. At three-quarter time we were winning comfortably, and Jeff decided that we should just keep jogging laps around the centre square instead of having our normal three-quarter time address, and that we were going okay. And from there, Jeff just decided to sit in the coach's box and not walk out. Jeff was probably one of the most gifted educators that I've ever known, and how lucky was I to have been under the tutelage of Jeff. But after that, I was most fortunate when the great Merv Holmes took over as coach in 1985. And even luckier when he decided to pin his faith on youth. He taught me everything about setting an example through actions and not just words. He gave me more than one or two chances to hold my spot, so thank you, Merv, I'll be forever grateful. And next, if you thought that was pretty good, then came Laurie Bird, another educator and a great player and a friend. Too many lessons to remember, although a couple spring to mind. One was don't break the link in the chain, and Peter Tossell will know that you can't take things lying down. The way Laurie played says it all. He was understated, classy and efficient, and if you look back at the 1988 Grand Final, no more needs to be said. Laurie was easily best of field, although Robbie got it. But most importantly, I learned all about humility from Laurie. Very humble man. He's a member of the Hall of Fame here, if you don't know who he is. After Laurie, I was coached by John O'Donoghue, who I respected greatly as a player. And in that 1 year with Hottie, I learned a lot about staying level-headed and being confident. From there, as you know, I went to Benalla. Benalla was an enormous experience for me and taught me a lot about preparing, having faith, and how to teach young players how to win without actually winning a game. Peter Tossell was another of my most admired coach or players, and he coached me for 2 games before I managed to break my leg. I had already learned a lot from him through playing with him, and I learned a lot about consistency, honesty and hard work from Toss. Finally, John McNamara was my final coach, another school teacher who was always well prepared. I learned a lot from John about preparation. My interleague coaches, thank you for giving me the opportunity to play in the league. I enjoyed it a lot. John Byrne, I learned about mental toughness. From Cowboy Neil, I learned that it's a simple game, just enjoy it. From Peter Tossell, I learned about making every moment count. And from Bobby Craig, I learned that mateship is the most important thing. Thank you to all of my opponents. Some I should thank more than others because I had more to do with some than others. I learned a lot about how to improve myself. Without playing against such a top level of opponent, I wouldn't have got to get that much out of myself. They drove me to continuously improve or finish. My teammates, I will be forever grateful for. I was most fortunate to come up into a group of blokes who were, as Graham said, like-minded, but just happen to be great players as well and great friends to this day. I can say that I never had a bad teammate and never had a bad word with any of them. I'm always happy to see them when I run into them. I was just fortunate to be around at the right time in the right place with the right people. There's too many great teammates to single any out, but thank you to all of them for helping me and for carrying me over this journey. I count them as my second family. Finally, to my number one family, I need to say thank you for your support. And it's here that I will actually single people out. So I will actually say thank you to my wife Susie, who was my partner for 20 of the seasons that I played. Not an easy thing when you consider that I was always late home from training, last to walk out from the change rooms after a game. From Susie I learned all about patience and how to live your life with love and style. My two sons Ryan and Seb, who are here tonight, spent the first part of their life following me around footy. From them I learned how to love living. Thank you to all. I'm truly fortunate to receive this honour. I'm very humble, and it's a little bit of an imposter situation when you really think about it, but I am proud to be part of the great Ums Murray Hall of Fame and join a few other Wang Rovers boys, but also some of the guys that I played against and have become friends with. Thanks, mate.
322 games, 7th on the all-time league list, 250 goals, 3 premierships in 1988, 91, 94, 5 times top 3 finish in the club best and fairest, O&M rep 12 times, Vic Country rep 7 times, coach of Wangaratta Rovers 2001 to 3. He's a life member of the O&M, he's a life member of Rovers. He coached Penella for 2 years in 99 and 2000. Represented the Goulburn Valley at interleague level in 98 and 99. He won the GV Morris Medal in 98, a Rovers Hall of Famer in 2006. If that's an imposter, what an outstanding ambassador. Well done, Tony Pasquale. And to Tony and Wally and their families, it's quite obvious where the attributes come from for young Bella, who won the Stall gift recently. So obviously it's in the genes and the preparation, so well done, Tony. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one more induction to do, and this one is to elevate a former inductee to the status of legend, becoming the 7th legend. He was inducted in 2006. So ladies and gentlemen, your newest legend into the Ovens and Murray Hall of Fame in 2023. Would you please welcome John Smith.
In a spectacular 316-match career, John Smith was an undisputed star for 4 clubs in the Ovens and Murray. He initially played at Rutherglen, winning one of 4 club best and fairests in his career in 1970. But Smith made his biggest impact at Bunton Park, where he had 2 stints with North Albury for a total of 204 matches. He was at his electrifying best for the Hoppers in 1973, when he won the Morris Medal by 5 votes and claimed the first of 3 club best and fairest with North Albury. With a host of other stars, including champion full forward and O&M legend Stan Sargent, a premiership also beckoned. But the Hoppers couldn't overcome Benalla in the grand final, despite their best efforts to upset the pace and skills of the Demons. Smith had to serve a lengthy suspension from the grand final, and when finally cleared to play the following season, he returned with a vengeance. Again, he topped the Morris Medal count in 1974, but was controversially ruled ineligible by the Ovens and Murray hierarchy of the day. Smith underlined his on-field brilliance by recording 3 other top 3 finishes in the league's highest individual honour. His first coaching job was at Wodonga in 1975-76, and then he had a season with Myrtleford before returning to North Albury as a coach in 1978. His second stint with the Hoppers included his only premiership in 1980. North Albury came from the elimination final to prevent Wangaratta Rovers winning a 4th successive flag. Smith played a starring role in the victory, and he remained at North Albury until a headline-grabbing switch to Wodonga midway through 1984, when the Hoppers hit hard times financially. The 2 fierce rivals met in the grand final, with a late goal from the boot of Rudy Johnson delivering North Albury a famous against the odds flag. Always one who wanted to test himself against the best, Smith represented the Ovens and Murray at interleague level 33 times and was also picked to play for Vic Country in 1981. He made an inevitable return to his roots to coach Middle United, which included a flag in 1986 and a Barton Medal for the Tallangatta and District League's best player. John Smith, elevated to the status of legend of the Ovens and Murray Hall of Fame.
So, John, 4 clubs, Rutherglen 50 games, Wodonga a couple of years as coach, a bit over 40 games, Myrtle for the season, 18 games. But it was the North Albury Hoppers, over 200 games. What was it about the Hoppers that brought you back twice and you stayed there and had a great deal of success?
It goes back a long way. When I first, I'll paint a bit of a picture. I come from the Middle Valley. I went to a school with 7 kids, and one of those kids was my brother Peter. There was no electricity till I was 15 years of age, no televisions, obviously no mobile phones. So after school, my brother and I would go up the paddock, those 7 and 8, 9-year-olds, and kick the footy till it was dark. Mum and she would yell out that dinner was ready, so we'd come in. So that was that upbringing. And that's when I fell in love with the game of football. My future brother-in-law, Frank Hodgkin, played 2 years with St Kilda, came back to Myrtleford for 1 year. In that 12 months, he would come across Talladoon on the farm. I would be about 12 or 13 tops, and he would spend at least 2 hours, 3 hours just going through football drills. And I'm very appreciative of the effort that Frank put into me, because I was getting this coaching for nothing. So 4 years later, he was appointed coach of Rutherglen, and I was fortunate enough to meet him at the Keewar. He resided in the Keewar Valley, I resided in the middle. To get to Wodonga, you crossed over at Keewar. So every Tuesday, Thursday, we would do that and continue on to Rutherglen for those 3 years. And that's when North Albury came calling in 1971. So that's how I'd like to paint that picture. And then I spent 10 years with North Albury. And in 1980, you talk about motivation, I can appreciate what Maggie Fowler's done and Anthony, the premierships that they gathered, and they're a very hard thing to come by, because it took me nearly all my career to finally get one. And I honestly thought at that stage in 1980 that it was passing, it was going to go past without me having the joy of success, because after 12 rounds we had 4 wins on the board. The next 6 games we played for the home and away we won, which gave us 10 for the year, which was enough to make the 5. And we never dropped another game to win that grand final. So while Dan Leslie calls North Albury his home, I call it also.
You spent a couple of years at Wodonga as coach. Had good times there, or just passing through back to North Albury?
I knew a lot of the boys there, because it was a young side. We made the finals on the 2 occasions there, where we had an incident. We played Wang Rovers in one of the finals, and we copped a barrage of injuries, probably 6 or 7 of good quality players out injured. I made a radical call on the Saturday morning, and it never went down too well. I was replaced the coach the next week, and I would have, if I had anything to do with it, I would have replaced myself as well.
I know there's a little bit of history there, but you recently, and it might have been at your press conference a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the status of footballers in your day that were fairly tough, and I mean, you were a ruck rover, a centreman, an on-the-ball player. Your views of footy then, and when you look at the other legends in our game, Cleaver Button, Robbie Walker, Neville Hogan, Jimmy Sandville, Stan Sargent, Marty Cross, yourself, you blokes are probably going to go in these days, I would think.
I would like to think that we would adapt. We'd have to certainly in our fitness. We'd have to come up another bar. But it's still one thing in footy. It's the same footy that we kicked 100 years ago. There's no difference. We've still got to be able to go and get the damn thing. And it's up to you what you do with it to make how much success you get out of that.
Yeah, I think it's totally explained. It's about the purpose and the passion and the drive and the preparation. One of the things that stands out to me with yourself and Matty and Tony and others is the representative football that you played. So not only were you successful at club level, but you had the desire to represent your league and your state. So what was it about that next level that gave you the drive to compete? Because obviously it was extra cost and sacrifice to go and play red footy.
I absolutely loved it. Couldn't get enough of it. I loved the Alberts and Murray, and whenever I was good enough to get a game, I was willing to play.
So your message to some of the precious players these days who make themselves unavailable and keep it clean?
I would love to see a full representation of the Alberts and Murray in the Alberts and Murray side. It'd be awesome.
You now live, I believe, down near in the Gambia, so life after footy for you has been busy?
Look, I loved the game of footy, and that love was gathered when I was a little kid. So when I retired, I had 4 sons, and I got a great deal of enjoyment out of them realising their potential and getting the enjoyment. Now I have 11 grandchildren, and scattered all over. I'll just give you a brief. I've got one grandson in Adelaide playing football. I've got another grandson in Barnsdale playing football. In 2 weeks' time, I've got to go to Melbourne because my granddaughter's playing a 50th AFLW game, which is amazing. The other 3 granddaughters are into their netball, plus AFLW. So, and then tomorrow morning, I've got to get out of bed early and go to Meriden. I've got another grandson playing with Shep East. So I'm flat out. I'm flat out seeing these kids get the same satisfaction what I got when I was a kid. And I really, really appreciate that.
Well, I'm sure there's a couple of people that you'd like to say thank you to, so I'll hand the microphone over to you for a moment.
I'll just make this brief. If I start rattling off names, I'm going to forget someone, but there's 2 or 3 that I'd probably give special consideration to. One was my brother Peter. The second one is now my late brother-in-law Frank Hodgkin. He was enormous as far as I was concerned. There's probably one thing that he drummed into me as a kid, that if you're going to play football, make sure you bring plenty of energy and effort. And I can assure you, if you didn't do either of those, he wouldn't talk to you for a week. Lastly, I would like to, if a medal was ever going to be struck, it's going to be struck for my wife, Robin. She's certainly the rock of our family. I've been married to Robin for 50 years. She's basically brought 4 boys up on her own, because in that particular time, for me to get anywhere out of the Middle Valley, it was a 2-hour trip to Benalla, hour and a half to Rutherglen, an hour and 10 minutes to Albury, and most times I'd have to leave the farm and early in the afternoon, and Robin would take care of business. So Robin, thank you very much. I love you. All in all, congratulations to all inductees tonight. Thank you, Monty, and your crew for this selection. I feel very humble, very proud. Thank you.
So I think we just need to recap. He played 316 games across 4 clubs. He won a best and fairest at Rutherglen in 1970, best and fairest at North Albury in 1973, 81 and 82, a premiership at North Albury in 1980. He won the Morris Medal in 1973. He was a runner-up in 1970 and 1982. He topped the count in 1974 but was disqualified. He represented the league on many occasions. He represented the Victorian Country Football League. He coached Wodonga. He coached North Albury. He coached Biddy United. One of the toughest and best footballers ever to represent the O&M. A fantastic legacy and a great inductee to the status of legend, Johnny Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'd like to do now is to invite all of our inductees back on the stage for Ron to propose a toast.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please be upstanding. Thank you. I'd like to raise a toast to our inductees and our legend upgrade. Congratulations to our 5 inductees and our legend. Certainly, from what's gone ahead tonight, it's been well deserved and well honoured. Congratulations, everybody. Thank you. And to the inductees and legend. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes the formal part of the evening. Please stay and enjoy some fellowship. Good luck for the rest of the year. Travel home safely, and hopefully we see you all back in season 2024. Thank you. Good night.